But the Americans weren't unprepared this time. American intelligence managed to decode the Japanese's secret messages, learning the location and timing of the attack in advance. Admiral Chester Nimitz used this information to set a trap. For the Japanese, the American Navy's strongest aircraft carriers, the USS Enterprise, USS Hornet, and USS Yorktown, were hidden near Midway. The Japanese thought the American forces were weak, but they were about to face a huge surprise. Forces of both sides' Japanese Navy, the Japanese sent a massive fleet to Midway. The fleet was led by the famous Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, and the backbone of the fleet consisted of 4 large aircraft carriers: Akagi, the flagship of the Japanese fleet and one of the strongest aircraft carriers; Kaga, a powerful carrier, with strong armor and a deadly complement of warplanes; Soryu, fast and effective, with Japan's most experienced pilots on board; Hiryu, Japan's last hope as the battle progressed. These 4 aircraft carriers had over 250 combat aircraft. Japanese pilots had already achieved great success at Pearl Harbor, and most were highly experienced and battle-hardened. The Japanese were also supported by powerful warships and cruisers. American Navy, the Americans had fewer aircraft carriers than the Japanese, but their greatest advantage was intelligence. Admiral Nimitz's fleet had 3 major aircraft carriers: USS Enterprise, the strongest and most experienced aircraft carrier in the American fleet; USS Hornet, America's greatest hope after the attack on Pearl Harbor; USS Yorktown, heavily damaged during the Pearl Harbor attack, but quickly repaired and prepared for Midway. These aircraft carriers carried over 230 combat aircraft. American pilots were not as experienced as the Japanese, but their planes were. More powerful, the Douglas SBD Dauntless dive bombers had the capability to destroy Japanese ships from the air, and the Grumman F-4F Wildcat fighters were ready to take on the legendary Japanese Mitsubishi A6M0 fighters. The forces of both sides were almost evenly matched, but what would determine the outcome of the battle was not numbers, but strategy. June 4, 1942, the first light of day. The day had just begun. Japanese planes launched an attack on Midway Island. American bases on the island were bombed, and everything was ablaze. The Japanese thought they had destroyed the American defenses, but the real battle was about to be fought in the skies. The Americans moved in to stop the Japanese ships. The first wave of attacks came from American torpedo bombers. However, Japanese fighter planes, the Mitsubishi Zeros, easily shot down the American planes. Almost all the American torpedo bombers were destroyed, but this attack distracted the Japanese, and the real blow was about to come, hell coming from the skies. The Japanese were so focused on the torpedo bombers that they failed to notice the American dive bombers coming from above. The Douglas SBD Dauntless bombers, descending rapidly from high altitudes, launched a deadly assault on the Japanese carriers. Within minutes, the Akagi, Kaga, and Soryu were engulfed in massive explosions and flames. The Japanese crew tried to escape, but the fires were uncontrollable. These 3 pride of the Japanese Navy sank one by one, but the Japanese still hadn't surrendered. The last remaining aircraft carrier, Hiryu, attacked the USS Yorktown, severely damaging the ship. The Yorktown was on the verge of sinking, but the Americans took revenge. A few hours later, Hiryu was also hit by American planes and sunk into the depths of the Pacific. Victory and a new era at the end of the battle. Japan had lost 4 major aircraft carriers and its best pilots. The Americans had won a great victory and seized control of the Pacific. Now, Japan was no longer the attacker, but the defender. The Battle of Midway wasn't just a battle. It was a turning point in World War II. This was the moment that changed the course of the war. Japan, which had been thought to be unstoppable, was shown that intelligence, courage, and strategy could defeat even the largest of fleets. By the end of this great battle, America began pushing Japan back across the Pacific, and the course of the war completely changed. Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. Today I'm taking you to the middle of the Pacific Ocean to one of the greatest naval battles in history, the Battle of Midway. Japan's seemingly unstoppable navy suffered one of the greatest defeats in history against America. But this wasn't just a battle between planes and ships. It was a clash of strategy, intelligence, and courage. So how did the Japanese make their mistake? How did the American military set up the game? And how did the Battle of Midway change the course of World War II? If you're ready, let's dive into this epic battle together. Battle of Midway, the moment, the fate of the Pacific. Changed June 1942. A great storm was about to break over the Pacific Ocean. The Japanese Empire had dealt a heavy blow to the American Navy with the attack on Pearl Harbor. Now they wanted to deliver the final blow and establish total dominance in the Pacific. Their target was the strategically important Midway Atoll. If they could capture this small island, they would open the path to America's west coast and prove their invincibility across the Pacific. The Battle of Midway was not just a battle, it was a turning point that changed the course of history. The Japanese Navy was thought to be invincible, but the combination of strategy, intelligence, and courage brought a massive force to its knees. This victory secured America's dominance in the Pacific while marking the beginning of a long and difficult road for Japan. This historic battle reminds us of one important truth: wars are not won by weapons alone, but by intelligence and determination. The heroes of Midway wrote a saga that reshaped history. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Until the next video, where we will uncover another chapter from history's dusty pages, take care.